Okay, so real quick, for anybody who has to glue the bottle down, make sure it's clean. I'd pull off if you have any of the label, you can pull that off. And I already did this one the other day, but just as a reminder, you have your hot glue gun, okay, and you're gonna have your glue. Once you have, this gets plugged in, and it just takes a couple quick minutes to heat up. This part right here gets really, really hot. So whatever you do, don't touch it and don't touch the glue once you squeeze it out onto your mat board. So I put my name on here, and I actually did two, so I could just demonstrate to the other class how to glue it down. So all you really need to do, guys, is you're going to take it, you'll squeeze out the hot glue once it's hot, a couple squeezes down, and you're just going to set the cover down on top. Again, don't touch the glue itself. You can see it dries clear. The glue is super hot, so you can just push it down and then just let it rest for just a couple quick seconds. I'd probably say I'd give it a minute. It sets really, really quick. So once you have that, then you can take, and if it comes off, by the way, which sometimes it does, you can just repeat the process so that way it stays on here. That way when you are working on your fish, it makes it so much easier to work on, okay? Especially when you start working with the painting. So for this first section though, I'm gonna ask you to please go right ahead and to unscrew it. That's the first thing you do. My name is on here just so that way I know that it's mine, especially if you're leaving it here in person. If you're working 100% remote, of course, you don't need to do that. So a couple of things. You need to get this little bottom section off because that's where we're going to ultimately attach the tail. I have my design out in front of me. Again, just so I can move forward with you, since I was not here this weekend, I didn't get a chance to finish adding color. I would finish adding color first. So if you have a hobby knife, or if not at home, you can use a knife from the kitchen. Just be obviously careful that you don't cut yourself. All you really need to do is to puncture. So I have a little puncture that's right here in my bottle, and I just need a little hole. The rest of it you can cut with scissors if you want to, or you can use the hobby knife just to trim the whole thing off. So once I have that hole, I'll show you with scissors. Hobby knife, I would just start going around that whole bottom section. You can see where there is, that section was connected. That's just what I would cut off and no more. So let me just snag a pair of scissors really fast. And now that I have the puncture in here, I have to find where I did it. It's right there. Okay, I can just go right ahead. And this is lightweight, so it's easy to cut. We're only doing the bottom part. Leave the top part alone for now. And I'm just going to trim this off. Now you're welcome to use that little bottom section even as a water container for when we start working with the paint. So, or you can put your little pieces in there. Okay, so this is what you have. You have the bottom, which is just trimmed off, just like that. So the question is like, how do we get started now? So for this section, here's my fish. I need to mimic this little section. The tail is going to be added on with a piece of that vinyl. The white vinyl that you have in your packet is going to be for all the different fins, okay? So if somebody wanted something really long, if you need more vinyl, guys, all you have to do is ask because I have plenty of it. So what I want to do is I'm going to mimic the side like this. So notice how if I squish it together, it's helpful so that way I can kind of see on both sides. So I want to mimic this little section here, and then ultimately I will put the tail on and I'm going to staple it together. You can draw on this. I would recommend drawing on it with a Sharpie. And I'm just going to, all this will be covered up with paint. So can you see how I'm going to turn this over just so you can see the lines better. So I have lines on the top, the bottom, and guess what? I want to put it on the other side too, so it's easier for cutting purposes. So if I flip it over, I can just pinch my plastic together and I can go right ahead and I can trace it. So if I go all the way around and make sure that this is connected, like so. Okay, so when I look at the shape of this, I can kind of see what it's going to do. I want to make sure that it represents this part of the fish here, right? Just that part. Okay, so now guess what? I can use my scissors, and you don't need a hobby knife for really anything else, just to get that puncture going at the end, so that way you can get it started. So this, we can just start to cut off. Now these little pieces that you're cutting off, you don't need to keep, because ultimately you're going to see, here's how it works. Look at that. It's my one section of the fish, just like that. Okay. I'm going to be building it, and it's a lot easier to work with the vinyl. And the vinyl is nice because it is weather resistant. And here's that. Okay. You just want to make sure that they're lined up, and that also the end part is kind of nice and neat. Like if you look at mine, I don't know if you can see there's a little bit of a frayed edge. I'm going to just make it so it's a little bit neater and trim it. So now that I have that cut off, that looks nice and neat, and I want to make sure this edge also looks nice and neat. Okay, so this is how it's going to begin to line up. If I need to do any additional trimming, I can go ahead and do so, but see how nicely everything lines up? So before I staple anything together, I need to actually make the tail, and the tail is going to go right inside those two spaces. So it'll go right in the middle, and then I'll be able to staple it on so I have my tail. So what I need to do is this. This is not paper, guys, it's the vinyl. So in your kit, you have a piece, see, has a little bit of a shine to it. It's that plasticky stuff. Okay, and this is where we're going to start to make the tail. My recommendation is we're going to make it a little bit longer, so I have part of it that sticks inside the plastic a little bit, so it gives it a little bit more stability and security, so it's not going to fall off or come off. So what I'm going to do is I can draw this in pencil. You can draw it using marker. I'm going to look at the shape that I have, whoopsie, of my tail. I'm going to start with the tail on this one. So in order to make sure that it fits, and guess what? If this needed to be more narrow, I know some of you, based on your designs, you're going to need a narrower section. I would just ultimately cut more off this end here. So that way, if you wanted it to be a narrower fish at the end, you could do so. So take a look at your fish and figure out what you would like. So I want this to make sure that it fits nicely. So this is going to be excess right here, okay? So I'm just going to show you what it looks like. Now I'm going to draw this part of my tail. All right, so I'm going to make sure that I like it on here. Notice I'm going from an end. Don't cut it out in the middle. That's not a good idea. Start from an end so that way you have plenty of vinyl to work with for the rest of your fish. Okay, so I kind of like the length of that. And I'm going to draw on here. I like drawing with sketchy lines. And I can make my finishing touches before I start cutting it out. Okay, so if you look at the shape of this, I did make it a little bit bigger because I wanted to. And I told you guys you could do that. So once I have my design here and I like how it looks, again, this is extra. This is going to, from right here to the base, that part is going to get stapled inside of the plastic bottle. So once I have this, now I need to cut it out. So I do recommend for the tail starting with extra. And I want to show you this part, and then I'm going to let you guys get some of the construction done for those of you who have it. Also, I'm gonna have you guys list what color paints that you are going to need this week. I would like to start putting your kits together, and then based on the colors of your fish, we'll determine the colors you will get for your kit. And I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Okay, so I'm just gonna carefully cut out. Keep in mind, I'm gonna paint this with acrylic paint, so all that black will be covered up. And you can draw this, you can see it in pencil if you want to draw it in pencil. I just use the permanent marker just so you can see. And for this, I only need just the one side. I want to make sure it fits nicely before I staple it on. And I didn't check this stapler to make sure it works, so hopefully it's a decent one. I'm going to grab a couple more of these, and I'm going to staple it few times just to make sure that it stays. Okay, I added more staples than I really need to, but see how it's starting to take on the shape of the fish? Okay, so ultimately, while I'm not working on it and I'm cutting things out, I can take this and set it upright so that way it stands. And it does make it easier to work on. Okay, now with the rest of this, I can start to make my different fins. And I'm going to talk to you at a different point. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but what you can do is you can start, remember for these pelvic fins, guys, you're going to need 2 of those. You need 2 pelvic fins. So if you draw one on your vinyl and you cut it out, you can trace it and draw a second one for the other side. Let me just show you, and I wasn't going to do this, but I will show you this one part that is huge. Okay, so for this pelvic fin, I'm going to do that one next since you do need 2 of them. And I also want to show you how to build it so that way it nicely stays on your fish. Okay. Again, I'm looking at the shape that I have on my drawing, and I'm going to, if you have little scraps that you can use your scraps, great, but I do have plenty of paper here or vinyl. Now with this, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and I'm going to have a little bit of extra space. So this right here is going to be the shape of my fin. Part of it is going to get hot glued down, and I'm going to talk to you about that part of it in a second. Here's my shape for my fin. I'm happy with it. Before I glue anything down though, I'm going to put it up to my fish and make sure that I like it. And guess what? We do need 2 of these. So based on the fact that I want them to be the same size, I will totally trace this. So this is the little section that I will fold. This is the section right here that I will actually ultimately hot glue to my bottle because it's on a fold and it's going to help this stay nicely. Plus it will kind of come out a little bit. I really like the shape of that. So because I have 1 of them only on here, I need to have 1 for my second side. So now that I have this, let's just trace it and make things easier. So I will have an identical pelvic fin. Now you can put any excess pieces that you have. Keep them, make sure that you have everything that you want. I'm going to make a little section here. This is my little line for my fold. So this is my fold. And I can cut it out. So you don't lose anything as you're going back and forth, especially for those of you who are in school a couple of days a week. Go ahead and put all this stuff back into your folder And if you want, you can just make all of your fins. You'll be able to then glue things down at the same time. So keep in mind for all of these, and I do the same thing for my fin, which is at the top. I need something to glue it down to the bottom too. So this will be my fin for the, for the other side. So I will have one fin on this side. I'm not going to glue mine down yet today. I will save that for another tutorial, but I'll glue mine on both sides. So I will have both of those pectoral fins ready. So for everything that you have, keep in mind, guys, you will need a little flap, okay? I would draw them out and I wouldn't cut anything yet until I actually go through like the next tutorial. You're even welcome to take your fins. This too can fit into your little packet if you want. You can put anything in here or just put it into your little packet so you have it. Okay, so this is going to be the beginnings of our fish. And then ultimately I need to cut, draw and cut a dorsal fin and a pelvic fin. I will do the same thing for those. I need to have that little space on the bottom for the fold so that way I can actually glue it to the top of the bottle, because if it's just a piece, it's not going to set nice on there. It's not going to stay. So you have one for the top and you'll have one for the bottom. Okay. And on that note, I need to take attendance. Let me stop recording. Guys, don't leave our meeting yet, so I don't mark you as absent.